Hello, happy Sabbath. Good morning to you guys. With all this virus thing going on, everybody's going online. So, all the churches that had no system, they're just getting ready for it. I'm not sure if you guys were transmitting already or not, but I'm glad Pastor Reyes is doing that. So, it's my privilege to be part of this project, this online Sabbath school. My name is Joel Almeida and I love the book of Daniel. And he asked me to just share some thoughts about Daniel and specifically on Wednesday and Thursday of this week, Sabbath school. So I prepared some stuff here. But before we go into the days we prepared, I'd like to share some background of the whole subject we're talking about. So we are studying this week chapter 11 of the book of Daniel. And as we have seen, the book of Daniel is divided basically into parts, big parts. The first 6 chapters, it's all historical. And the second part, the second chunk of 6 chapters, they're all prophetic messages. So they're all big chunks. But as all the Hebrew literature, the book of Daniel is all connected. So uh, chapter 2, for example, matches chapter 7 and 8 and so forth and so on. So we see some similarities of chapter 8 and chapter 11. And it's very intriguing and interesting to see that because it's easier for us to understand. But I'd like to share also a map because we'll be seeing this whole dynamic of the power of the north, the kingdom of the north, the kingdom of the south, and back and forth and so forth and so on, and south and north and south, and theologians they discuss the real meaning of this north and south. But before we go into it, I just would like to share some background of the biblical perspective, because usually we study the Bible as the Bible would have been written for us in our days. And obviously, the Bible is written for us, but not within our context. So, the context that the Bible was written is very different, and then the people, culture, everything is very different. That's Palestine. So, the Bible was written there. Daniel used to live there. He was a Hebrew. He was a Jewish young boy in the beginning, and then he was taken to Babylon. So he basically his whole life was in Babylon. And another interesting thing, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this or have noticed that, but the book of Daniel is written in basically 2 languages. So from chapter 2 verse 4 until chapter 7, it's written in Aramaic, which was the international language of Babylon. In chapter 1 and the first 3 verses of chapter 2, and then chapter 8 and on, it's all in Hebrew language. So Aramaic and Hebrew languages, they form the book of Daniel. And the interesting aspect of that is that everything that is written in Hebrew is directly towards the Jewish people. So the target audience is the Jewish. And everything that is in Aramaic, that's more like general, that's international. So everybody could read it. That's Aramaic, that's international language. And everything that is in Hebrew, only the Jewish people could read. So it's very interesting to see basically the whole part of prophetic messages, except for chapter 7, chapter 8 and on, it's all in Hebrew. So it was all targeted to the Jewish people to read. So let's just take a look at the map so we can see this dynamic of north and south in the Jewish concept, in their mind. What is this? So it's easy for us to look back and see prophecy and all this interesting stuff. Very interesting. But first, to understand the message of the writer, we have to understand his mind and his context. Okay? So Daniel grew up in this with this whole idea that just like every Jewish boy, they knew that the 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 north, like this is Palestine, this is all Israel, okay, this strap right here, and then right here it's a desert. So this is Babylon right here. So Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, they could not come across the desert. They used to go up to Assyria and then from here come down. So all the attacks, everybody who want to attack here, they had to go up and come from here. So all the enemy would come from the north. Okay? So the enemy of the Jewish people would come from the north, never from the east, nor from the west, which is the sea. It was always from the north or the south. This is Egypt right here. So the enemy would come either from the north or from the south. Okay? And another interesting thing is that this strap here, the land, it was the cross path, the crosswalk of the world. Everybody who was traveling to Babylon, back to Egypt, to Assyria, they had to cross Israel. That's why God chose this land for Abraham. So they'll be in the junction, like in the crosswalk. Everybody who would be going up and down would cross through Israel. So they had a chance to show God, to evangelize. That was the purpose, to evangelize everybody. So in their mind, all the enemy would come from the north or from the south. So when they say enemy from the north, usually will be Babylon. That was the largest empire, the big one. So Babylon would come from the north and Egypt from the south. Okay? And so we have in our Sabbath school, we start with the passage Daniel 11, verse 29 to 39. So Daniel 11 from 29 to 39, we begin studying in this specific portion of the chapter, the blasphemies of the kingdom of the north. So if we compare, and I had a picture, I wish you guys can see this. So I took a picture of a chart of comparison from the little horn in the kingdom of the north. It's very interesting. So we have a lot of things that we can compare. The little horn from chapter 8 of the book of Daniel and the kingdom of the north. And when we put them together, we can see lots of interesting things. So I'm going to show you guys here. The first thing is Persia. So we have chapter 8, chapter 11. Both we have Persia, we have Greece, we have Rome. And after Rome, like verse 4, we can identify Rome, chapter 11. And after that, it gets a little tricky. We can see Alexander the Great. We can see then after Alexander, obviously Rome, because we can identify that in the other chapters of Daniel. So we see Rome in verse 4. And after that, we have this conflict, north and south, north and south. But when we compare, at first, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but it's very interesting. You can take a picture of the screen to read it later. So we have this whole comparison of chapter 8, chapter 11, and the exact point of the little horn, it matches the north and south in the chapter 11. So comparing the two of them, only the little horn and the kingdom of the north, we have lots of things matching. And in our study here on the Wednesday section, we are specifically saying, looking at the blasphemies that the kingdom of the north said about God, right? Just like the little horn. So what's blasphemy in the Bible? Let's understand the concept, the biblical concept. So when you say blasphemy in the Bible, in the Hebrew concept, that means someone who wants to take the place of God. Okay, whoever wants to do what God, only divine being God can do, that's blasphemy. So when Jesus said, I can forgive sins, well, in the Hebrew concept, only God can forgive. So when Jesus said, I can forgive, he was taking the place of God, and that was blasphemy. So right here, somehow the kingdom of the north wants to take the characteristics of the divine being of God. So he was claiming to be God. That's why it's a blasphemy. Okay? So interesting thing to see is that the kingdom of the north, he has this whole mentality of, I want to be like God. I want to do everything that God does. I want to have the God characteristics. Everything that God does, I want for me. And this is a direct mirror, a direct connection with Isaiah 14, verse 13. Isaiah 14, verse 13. I'd like to read for you guys this little verse. I'm sure you've heard it before. That's Isaiah chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. See if you can somehow remember this whole passage. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So we have 5 times in these 2 verses, 5 times the word I, I, I. I will do this, I will do that, I will go up, I will take the place of God. I will climb even higher than the mountains of the north. I will replace God. That's the concept of the Tower of Babel. So to replace God. Babel means the door of God. Bab is door, El is from Elohim. So the door of God. The Tower of Babel mentality was to grow until God, take God out of the place and replace God. Okay, and that's the very same concept. This is Lucifer. Okay, that's his concept. So the south then is the opposite. The south is a power that has no God at all. So the author, Dr. Elias Brazil, the author of the Sabbath School, he calls them the atheists, bringing this term from Ellen White, and that's what it is. So the kingdom of the south represents a power that has no God. They just, the humanist, the wisdom mentality, that's the French Revolution, this mentality of let's do things without God. Secularism, that's Europe like mentality. So we don't need God. Let's just forget religion, forget God, forget Bible. This is all old folk stuff. We don't need that. Let's just do it on our own. Okay, science, Scientology. You guys know all this. So this is all kingdom of the south speaking. Kingdom of the north, they claim to be God. So we all know the little horn and the Christian mentality in general today that has the central power in Rome, and they claim to be God in all aspects, replace the law of God and do their own will. But the basic concept is the same. Kingdom of the north versus kingdom of the south. One claims to be God. That's why it's blasphemy. The other one, the south, claims that they can do everything without God. But both of them have one thing in common. Both of them wants to do their own will. So both of them, they are trying to just, one is trying to replace God, the other one is trying to do things without God, but both of them are trying to do their own will. So the bottom line is the fight is my will against God's will. I will do my will or God's will. It's my desire or God's desire. And that's the summary of Wednesday and Thursday that I would like to bring to you. That's what we can bring from that. Uh, the fight, the actual fight, is not God versus the devil, but it's God versus my desire, my will or God's will. Because whenever we have this concept, okay, well, I'm not sure if I want to do God's will, but I'll have some time. I'll think about it. Let me see. Obviously, I'm not going to do the devil's will. I know this is bad, but I just want to have my time. I want to think about it. I'm not sure if I want to do this or not. So we have this concept that God on one side, the devil on the other side, and I can somehow step out, consider the point, I'm not going to get to the devil's side, but I have to think about God's side, and I'm going to ponder what's good and what's not good for me and try to edit God's will for me. And what the Bible always emphasizes is that the fight is my desire against God's desire, what God wants me to do versus what I want to do. And that was the kingdom of Lucifer. That was what Lucifer brought. So Lucifer said, I want to do my will. It's my will, what I want. I will fight, I will sin, I will do this, I will do that. This I concept. So the I concept, whenever I place my will on top, this is either kingdom of the south or the north. One is trying to replace God. One is trying to do everything on its own. Both of them are on the same side. Okay? Both of them are just without God. Both of them are doing their own will versus God's will. And that's what we're going to see until the end. So we have this expression, and that's on Thursday, the expression, the time of the end. This is a very fine expression that only Daniel uses, this expression, the time of the end, the time of the end. This word end in Hebrew, ketz, the word used there, is a specific word for destruction, for complete final events, the complete destruction of the whole earth, like collapse. There's anything else after that. Okay, that's complete end. That's ketz. So that's the word used there. So the time of the final end. Okay, it's not just a season. It's not just like, there's another battle after that. No, that's the complete end. So that expression is used in chapter 12. I'm just going a little ahead. Chapter 12, we have in the first verse, we have Michael. So the one who is like God. And that expression is key as well. So that comforts Daniel, the one who is like God, the one who is like God. And that's what brings Daniel some consolation, so comfort, because he sees this battle, the kingdom of the south versus the kingdom of the north. One is fighting to be God, to be like God. So Jesus is Michael. He is like God. And the kingdom of the north is trying to replace him, is trying to be like God. That's the prerogative of the kingdom of the north. The kingdom of the south is saying, just like Egypt, just like Pharaoh, I don't need God. I can do everything on my own. I don't need him. Who is this God? Just like Pharaoh told Moses, who is this Yahweh? Who is this Jehovah? Who is this God? I don't know him. So I don't need him. This is Egypt. This is this concept today of science. I can do everything on my own. But the bottom line is they're trying to do everything according to their own understanding. And kingdom of the north mentalities trying to be wiser than God. So I'll just figure it out everything, and I know what God wants me to do, and I'll do everything according to my understanding. I'm not gonna wait and see what God wants me to do. And that's key for us today in this whole chaos we're living right now with the virus and everything. We have to be, we have to accept God's will, and we have to be content to whatever God brings us into, because He has a plan for all of us. So this whole battle of the kingdom of the south and the north, according to the book of Daniel, this will last till the end, till the coming of Jesus. So we are still living the fight between the kingdom of the north and the south. This concept of I want to replace God, I want to do what I think God wants me to do, versus I don't need God. Both are wrong. We want to, just like Psalm 46 verse 10, be still and wait. Be still, because I am God. I will do it. Just like God told Moses, chapter 14, Exodus, He said, they were all agitated, waiting, Egypt coming, Pharaoh coming with the chariots. They are in front of the Red Sea, and God told Moses, be still. Just hang in there and see my my way to free you guys, to deliver you guys, to give you hope, to show you the way. So that's the basic concept of Daniel 11, to help us understand that we have a battle today, but we have to choose God's will, not my will. Both sides are wrong. God's will is the best way for us. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Big hug for you guys, and may God help us to be safe during this time. God bless.